DPS are like any other role. You need to know how it works before you step foot into a live raid environment. When you're leveling, you should take the time to read your abilities and get an idea of how your rotation works. Your goal during this period should be to understand your offensive and defensive abilities buffs, what cooldowns affect what abilities and or damage, and so on. To get a better idea of how your DPS operates, carefully read over your discipline path. Review your abilities, passives, and buffs. To become a great DPS, you need to create a strong foundation of knowledge on which you can build upon. Take the time at the beginning to do this and start yourself off on the right foot. Gearing is something that I feel people put way more importance into than necessary. While gearing and stat compositions exist in formats that allow you to get the most out of your DPS experience, gearing is in no way the end-all catch-all when it comes to DPS. If you really understand how to play your character, its rotations, priorities, etc., then you'll be capable of doing very close to what you could do with optimized gear. For specific gearing strategies, check out the various guides out there for the class you're playing. These guides can be found namely on Dolphy.net, but also through official SOTOR forums where many players in the community share their gearing strategies and opinions. Try them out and pick the one that works best for you. One of the most missed opportunities in playing DPS is not maximizing your ability to do DPS by setting yourself up for the best possible chance of success. Since DPS is again damage per second, you need to understand that the faster you get your abilities out, the higher your DPS will be. Over the many years I've been playing DPS classes, I've only ever met 2 players who are highly skilled and efficient enough to be click players. One a range DPS and one a melee DPS. What I want to convey here is that I'm not arrogant enough to say that click playing is wrong, but I do believe that overall the benefits to keybinding severely outweigh those of clicking in my own experience. There are a lot of discussions and videos out there advocating this, and I want to share with you one that I think is very well written and detailed. You can find this article by clicking the link here, or you can find it in the description section below. Here's a good point from the post that should get your wheels turning. Why does clicking get a bad reputation? Well, a couple of reasons. First, it's slower. It's slower to move your mouse across the screen and hit different abilities than it is to move your hand across a keyboard. If you don't believe this, here's an experiment. Head over to the following site and type a simple sentence by clicking the keys. Now try it with your keyboard. Unless there's something else at play, the latter should be faster. What's more, turn a full circle on the spot with your keyboard using WASD, and do the same with your mouse, holding the right mouse button and rotating the mouse. One's a lot faster than the other. Although this article was written for World of Warcraft, its message and highlighted points hold true for SOTOR and many other MMOs. Keep in mind that another great way to keybind is by using a gaming mouse. I have one, and these are absolutely amazing. Splitting your abilities between a mouse and a keyboard can open a wonderful amount of possibilities for you as a player, namely being able to hit 2 buttons almost at the exact same time, one on your mouse, one on your keyboard, while still allowing yourself the ability to move. Whatever your decision here, make it now, because this will be the mortar that will hold together the foundation you're building. While DPS meters can be less than perfectly accurate and a source of stress for many DPSers, they're also a great way to analyze your performance. DPS improvement, as we'll see moving forward, is a lot about information and research. StarParse is a program that you can download from the following site that allows players to look at both DPS and damage, among other things. This tool allows you to gain valuable information on what you're doing when it comes to overall DPS. Either while training or in live raid, use this tool as much as you can because it is there for your benefit. You can view the number of attacks, crits, misses, you name it, it's all there. You can compare your DPS output with that of others throughout the course of a fight. If you're in a group with someone who plays the same class and spec as you do, and you see they're doing a lot higher than you, stop them and ask questions. Don't be shy. Of course, we all know there are some people out there who are up their own ass when it comes to gaming, but most people will stop what they're doing and offer advice or their opinions on how you can do better. No one gets anywhere without a mentor or someone to help them along the way. So don't be afraid to ask questions to better yourself. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself. The Parsley website found here is an amazing utility available to the SOTOR community that can really aid you in acquiring great information from some of the best players in the world without needing to send them an email or catch them in game. Through this website, you can access every class and spec in the game and then bring up a list of all the reported logs submitted to the Parsley website. You can even create an account and upload your own so you can track your progress and compare your logs to others. This is a great feature and one I highly encourage you to do. This site shows much more information and shows it in greater depth than that of the StarParse UI. One of the great features of the site is the rotations tab. You can use this to see what opening rotations and or filler rotations the best guys and girls in the world are doing with your class and spec. Take advantage of this. You can even compare your rotation on an uploaded parse with that of someone else's side by side to see how your rotations compare. I've used this feature many times while trying to master other classes and specs to fine-tune specific DPS openers and rotations. Again, take advantage of this. It's a great website, it's a great utility, and it will make you better. Now that you understand your class and its inherent abilities, it's time to understand how to put all of that into a fluid rotation or list of priorities. Thankfully, SOTOR has a great community of players out there writing guides and posting forum discussions on exactly this topic. Do your research and find out what other people are doing for their rotation, and if there is a priority list, see how others are prioritizing their abilities. Again, you can use the Parsley website to passively gain some of this information, but it's always nice to read a guide or a forum post explaining why the rotation is built that way, or why the priority list is ranked the way that it is. Now that you have all the tools you need to do DPS, it's time to put your knowledge to the test. One big secret to really good DPS is knowing your specs so well that using the right ability at the right moment almost comes naturally. That way, when you need to move out of fire or switch targets or any number of other mechanics, you can carry on with your DPS. It's almost innate, and that innateness comes with practice. This innateness is often referred to as muscle memory. I've advocated keybinding and mouse movement over clicking, but if you prefer to click your abilities, you can still practice your DPS rotation and priority list just as well. So what's good practice? Well, training dummies for one. They're a great place to test out your new abilities, gearing strategies, rotation, priority list, basically all of the information you've managed to gather from the resources we've already gone over. See if you're getting a DPS increase from your hard work, or not, and adjust accordingly. Practice in blocks though. Please don't drive yourself to a white jacket by parsing on a dummy for hours and hours. Furthermore, capitalize on opportunities when you're out doing your dailies, heroics, flashpoints, or operations. Don't just do what's needed. Use your knowledge and push yourself and try to do the best you can. Sure, trash mobs will likely die before you get off a full rotation, but stick at it anyways. At the least, it's extremely satisfying. Remember, your goal is to practice, so practice. One great rule of doing damage is that movement is everything. Movement can affect your DPS both positively and negatively, and it's one of the biggest game mechanics that players mess up on, especially for melee players. For melee DPS, you have to be within melee range, generally defined as 0 to 4 meters, while ranged need to remain within the maximum reach of their skills. If you're out of range, then your potential for DPS is 0. Let's use a scenario in order to flesh out the concept a little bit better. Say you're in a group or a raid that's fighting a boss, when the tank walks him from one side of the room to the other to get him into a better or more specific position. If you're a melee class and you do not follow the tank while he's moving the boss, then you're going to be unable to DPS, and effectively your DPS at this point will be 0. Likewise, if you're a ranged class and the boss moves out of your range, then you're going to be doing 0 DPS as well. Knowing this, you can minimize the negative effect of movement by being smart and staying alert to what is going on by watching the boss and your tanks. During boss fights, many encounters require a fair amount of movement to avoid AoE or area of effect damage, so a lot of this applies to retaining high DPS while also avoiding damage from mechanics. Remember, your goal as DPS is to do as much damage as possible and take as little damage as possible during an engagement. Stay on your toes, be mobile when you need to be, and stay raid aware. Being active is the most important thing you can do while in combat. More often than not, a lot of players who are properly geared but not doing very good damage are just not being active enough. You'll see seconds between the time one ability finishes and they start casting or using the next one. The most important thing is to have the next ability in your rotation ready to be used as soon as the current skill is finished. You may be scared that you'll run out of your resources, but you should look at it this way. If you spend all of your resource in 1 minute, or in 5 minutes, you will still have spent the same amount of resource to do the same amount of damage. The only difference is that it's spread out between 1 minute or 5 minutes. The longer it takes you to do the same amount of damage, the lower your DPS will be. Remember, DPS stands for damage per second. The next time you're in a fight, try to never have more than half a second between the time you use one ability to the next, and see how it affects your DPS. A popular tactic, one that I employ, is to spam the keybind for the next ability you're going to use. That way the ability triggers the moment you're capable of using it. Each class and spec has an optimal APM, or attacks per minute, that is generally accepted among the SOTOR community as optimal. You can find this in guides and definitely on Parsley through those logs that are at the top of their class. StarParse also displays this information, so take a look at it sometime and see where you stand. But overall, you should aim to be as active as possible in a fight. One of the biggest mistakes I see time and time again is DPS players picking up strategies, rotations, and mechanics, and then somewhere along the way, they forget it. If you're serious about becoming the best DPS you can be, once you take one step forward, do not trip and fall backwards. Along the way, you may learn of a better way to do your rotation or something new you can implement to take advantage of a boss mechanic to make your life easier while you're doing your job as a DPS. Once you learn something, don't forget it. Remember, great DPS takes work. You will make mistakes, a lot, but bounce back from them, accept them, and better yourself. Don't be deluded and think you're the best DPS you can possibly be right now. Find good people who are good at what they do and pick their brains. Read up on different theories and information, watch videos on fights, etc., but always strive to be better tomorrow than you were today. But please, once you've seen something that works or learned something beneficial, don't forget it. Okay guys, that's my top 10 on how you can become a great DPS. So guys, I'm curious, what DPS tips do you have or would suggest that I may have missed? Leave them in the comment section below. Until then, don't forget to like and subscribe if this video helped you out. Thanks for watching, have fun, and happy DPSing. Yeah.